my name's Kieran Howard from the Politics and Pub Management Committee. This is like a comment, and I'd like your comment on this. I did a little bit of research for tonight.
My comment on your comment.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I think there is no doubt that political cartoons exert a political and social influence. From Martin Luther's caricatures of the papacy during the period of European Protestant Reformation to Napoleon Bonaparte, who once quipped that the English political cartoonist James Gilroy did more than all the armies in Europe to bring me down.
See, I should have gone further back.
The Nazi Julius Streicher's notorious anti-Semitic cartoon weekly, Der Stürmer, ran vicious, ugly cartoon caricatures of Jews, so effective in inciting hatred that after the war at the Nuremberg trials, the prosecutors found Streicher an accessory to murder, as culpable as those who actually carried out the Holocaust. Streicher was found guilty of crimes against humanity and sentenced to death in 1946.
Do they kill him? Yes. They actually do it?
Yep, they carried it out. Yep. Right. The satirical cartoons of Charlie Hebdo, explicit, sometimes obscene cartoon images of religious figures, the Prophet Muhammad among them, certainly had a political effect. And the killing of 12 Charlie Hebdo cartoonists and editors, and the politicians proclaimed this as an assault on the principles of free speech, another outrage by Muslims who cannot tolerate Western freedoms, thus justifying the war on terror. The historian Simon Sharma places the satirical political cartoons of Charlie Hebdo in a glorious tradition of journalistic irreverence that, quote, is the lifeblood of freedom. Satire, declares Sharma, is the oxygen of politics. Gary Trudeau, the creator of the Doonesbury comic strip, adds to this, however, quote, traditionally, satire has comforted the afflicted while afflicting the comfortable. Satire punches up against authority of all kinds, the little guy against the powerful, holding up the self-satisfied and hypocritical to ridicule. Ridiculing the non-privileged is almost never funny, it's just mean.
Oh, I should have had you right at the start. You just completely answered the question. The cartoonist is like a small rabid dog brought into the wrong party. It's sort of part of the job description that you almost have a responsibility to go for the fattest, most pampered ankle in the room. I mean, there's no point mauling the person who's serving the drinks. But no, and again, again, part of the job description is always, and I don't. It's almost it should be a default setting with any satirist or cartoonist is to punch up, because if you're punching down, I mean, even if you work for a conservative, you start with a blank piece of paper, and the story comes in whatever it is. There's usually the story's fresh, the story's just broken, whether it's a four corners thing. There's enough blame to go around. So the cartoonist gets to choose. He's got a blank piece of paper. The carcass is still fresh. Okay. There's enough blame to go around. Where do I go? Because usually there's a public official, there's parental responsibility, there's self-determination. There's a variety of things the wheels that have fallen off the wagon at this point to end up with this bad news story. So you can pick your target, essentially, and you make sure you don't, because inevitably with these sorts of stories, and I'm probably referring to Dondale here with these sorts of stories, it's usually the little guy who's at the receiving end of whatever the story or the event is. So if you're going to punch down, then your target is going to be the little guy. And you've got all these other factors that have caused this event to happen, and you elect to select the victim for not being responsible enough, or careful enough, or you're derelict in your responsibility as a satirist.
The responsibility of the cartoonist is to punch up.
Yes, bottom line puncher, and far be it from me to disagree with anything. Actually, the comforting the afflicted.
Yes.
And afflicting the comfortable was something we used to use to describe advertising when I was in it.
Tony Backhouse from the Group Hands of Syria.
Okay, Tony.
Right. Your comment about mundane 6 years over spring in a row, the same content. if you don't want to do that, you need to do what Charis Chang from New Zealand did. She actually wrote an article pointing the finger at the opposition about the Nabucco gas pipeline and wrote a great thesis about it. But the big elephant in the room was the genie of Genie Energy in the Golden Heights, which is Rupert Murdoch's consortium that want to drill for oil and gas in the Golan and the sovereignty of the Golden Heights. Now, the Nabucco gas pipeline was in the Qatari national paper in 2006. It was never agreed to. The war that happened in Lebanon...
No, I know all about the gas pipelines and stuff.
Yeah, but no one talks about it.
They
want to overthrow the country to put a gas pipeline through.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I mean, you want to ask that question of an actual journalist, not a poor cartoonist.
Well, as you can say, you can throw punches. I see the punches pulled by the journalists all the time because they don't want to offend Rupert Murdoch. You don't work for Rupert Murdoch.
Well, it's not just without getting into the whole gas pipelines and energy as a source of...
Rupert Murdoch owns 5% share in Genie Energy.
Yeah.
I'm saying you've got the ability to throw punches.
Essentially, we do broad strokes.
Yeah.
And it's...
But there's a subject for you.
Think of it as Punch and Judy theatre. You know, here's a bad guy. Here's a good guy. And I was saying, I was talking to someone during the break, and saying rather than do the broad stroke stuff on Trump, because what I'm covering with Trump is essentially that the buffoonery, the smoke and mirrors, which is all very soft target stuff, but the method to the Trump administration's madness is that this is all a smokescreen covering up what he's doing to the American safety net. And while the media runs around covering Trump's foot-in-mouth disease, etc., the real story is going on underneath, which is not being covered. So yeah, at some point I should probably do a drawing about that. If not, gas pipelines in the Middle East.
Yeah. And a genie.
And a genie. Well, maybe not a genie.
Hello, my name is Jeff Gordon. I just want to thank you for your slideshow and your excellent cartoons. I was wondering how you work, whether you work pen to ink or whether you do it all electronically, because I was just thinking that years ago, decades ago, whenever a politician was offended by a cartoonist, he'd buy the original and frame it and put it hanging in his office and so on to show what a good sport he was.
Yes.
But I was thinking,
they still do that.
They still do that. I was just wondering, because I thought if you're doing it working totally electronically, then there wouldn't be an original that you could frame.
Oh, you can send a print, but they used to, back in the day, they would buy the original to take it off the market.
Yeah, oh, I see. Is that the reason?
Well, so pre-digital, you would buy the art. You'd lock it in the basement with a man-eating tiger and so nobody could never be seen the light of day again. But post-digital, in terms of process, I'm a dirty, rotten, cheating scoundrel. I half and half it.
Okay.
So I do pencil and a wash,
right,
and then I throw the whole lot into Photoshop to colour, so it looks like it's hand done.
Okay, yeah.
And I also have a Photoshop watercolour paper texture thing that I lay over the top, which makes it even look more hand drawn. Okay. It's a massive con. So it's just just pencil and wash. Also, all the originals are just pencil and wash.
Yeah. I was going to ask also, do you, having worked overseas, can you recognise a particularly Australian style of cartooning?
Better.
Okay.
With the exception of Patrick Oliphant. Oh, he's Australian. Gary Trudeau. No, there's some really, they're really good. There are some really good. Chap called Bennett who works for the Chattanooga News. I love his stuff because it's very singular and very simple. So some great, every market, UK, Europe, all have excellent cartoon, but Australia's no different. But if anything, there's more nudity in Australian editorial work. David Rowe had a good run. I think last 2 weeks, I think 3 times he's drawn people without pants, and people don't mind it.
Okay, next one.
Richard Cody, unemployedembassy.magics.net, so we've got a website, Unemployed Embassy. We didn't want to indulge news about Trump. I just showed you in the break, Glenn, I'm Richard, and showed Trump as a gorilla. You know, the gorilla got killed. And it's June 2016. So Yeah, I guess we sort of thought the way they're attacking him, showing him as a gorilla, no clothes on, sexist and everything like that. Thank you, Jeff. That was sort of a big mistake, actually. They should have tried to figure out what his bloody policies were, right? And rather than attack him as a middle-aged guy, right? But about Bill Leak, though, did he have brain damage or something? He did that cartoon showing an Aboriginal bloke who didn't know the name of his own son or something, right?
No, Bill, cartooning it's a bit difficult. Some days are better than others. When you can step and repeat 3 Australias with their eyes blinking, you can do that in 2 hours and you go for lunch for the rest of the day. But usually it's a slog. It's 6 to 8 hours,
right.
Stapled to a chair.
Well, that cartoon.
No, just let me finish on Bill. The Australian wouldn't employ Bill if he wasn't up to the gig. You don't put. I mean, particularly when you've got so many artists who would sell their grandmothers to get a space in any paper, be it Murdoch or and I think there's only less than half a dozen. There's actually fewer. There's probably only 4 daily editorial slots available. So to get one of those slots, you have to wait till somebody dies, essentially. So they wouldn't put Bill in the chair if Bill wasn't up to the job. And as it turned out for the Australian, where Bill's head was at, absolutely dovetail. And this is not saying anything about brain damage or whatever.
I think the mic's been turned off, so I might have to talk louder, I'm not sure.
No.
Okay. So anyway, that particular cartoon,
the short answer is no, really.
To me, it was like a 70s thing. A guy, someone says, you've got a woman, you've got a son, right? And you didn't know, right? You've got some woman pregnant and so on. So you read it differently. And they say it's an Aboriginal guy. And that's saying, well, he's an irresponsible guy, being an Aboriginal or something like that, you know what I mean? So it's just a really dumb cartoon.
All right. So it's that the thing about that drawing, whether you can't, no one knows the stuff that I put up there. Nobody knows what my intentions were when I did any of it. But your intention when you draw something is never to stimulate a public debate. You don't say, oh boy, this is going to put the cat amongst the people. You don't do it to be controversial. You do it because you've got a point that you want to make about an issue. Let me finish. You get the point.
I don't think he understood.
Why don't we carry discussion on later?
It's okay. I don't think answer was offensive.
No, I'm getting to answering the question. So you put it, well, maybe, but Bill felt that he had a point that he wanted to make with that drawing. So his intent, you can't, unless you were standing over Bill's shoulder and he was describing to you every step of the way, this is what I'm doing here, and this means this, and I'm doing this, because only Bill was in the room at the time. Maybe he explained it to his editor, but if an editor worth his salt will just look at something, yes, I know what your point is, and run it, which is what they did. They ran it. Now, what came out of that cartoon was a very vigorous public debate about Indigenous people and their family values. And what also came out of that debate was this wonderful Twitter campaign of Indigenous dads and their kids.
Yep.
Now, without knowing what Bill's intentions were, apart from the fact that what came out of it, I think, far outweighed whatever Bill's intentions were at the time of drawing.
Just say it's a low-grade cartoon.
Okay, we won't make that point. That's enough. Thank you.
He's tapping on me on the shoulder. She did this.
My name's Noel. I'm a member of the Gaelic Club and one of the volunteers that helps out here.
Thanks, Noel.
I've got a comment and a real question. The first comment is I'd like to apologise to you, Glenn, on behalf of the Gaelic Club for the shameful behaviour of the audience tonight. That is ridiculous, guys. Come on. Joe asked you not to talk. They're usually a lot better. Nobody came here to listen to the anecdotes or opinions of Jefferson Lee or anyone else. We came here to listen to Glenn. If you can't show any respect, I'm going to ask Wynne Childs to come here every Thursday. My question is,
Wynne Childs, you've been born.
Believe me, that's a serious threat. My question is, and I think, Glenn, you just answered it with your last comment about Bill. You seem to focus on a cartoonist influence and influence on political leaders. And I was going to ask about your influence on the readership and the general public, and I think you just answered that with your comment on Bill Leak. Could you just expand a little bit more of your own experience of influence on your readership?
Mostly you work in a vacuum. Occasionally you'll get some actual feedback. I have, sometimes you get something that's a bit unpleasant. The Gaza drawing I did a few years ago was particularly some very unpleasant feedback, but I have if you've ever submitted anything to a publisher, they'll send you back a rejection slip. I have drawers and drawers of rejection. I could wallpaper my spare room with rejection slips. But essentially I send something out, it's got sort of my signature, a letterhead, and paraphrasing the standard publisher's rejection slip, it says, thank you for your feedback, but we regret to inform you that it doesn't suit our needs at the present time. And you don't hear anything else. Yeah, just in terms of influence, you're part of the general sideshow, the Punch and Judy show, the political theatre. So you're just providing a few bullets that people can load into the gun and shoot at other people online. It's just part of the general discourse. I think in today's Twitterverse, everybody is able to exist in a bit of what do you call an opinionated vacuum. Everybody's in their own bubbles, so it kind of just drawings like this. If you're of essentially the same opinion, it just contributes to reinforcing your world view. I mean, there's a guy. There was who was it? Darren Cagle, who runs a syndication service in the United States of editorial cartoons, just wrote a piece where he's getting editors calling him up, lamenting the fact that he's not posting, or they can't find any pro-Trump cartoons. So the problem with these editors is that they said, well, when Obama was in power, there was pro-Obama, we were able to run a pro-Obama cartoon, we were able to run plenty of negative Obama cartoons. So why aren't the cartoonists that were doing the negative Obama cartoons we used to buy, why aren't they doing, now that the government has changed, why aren't they doing pro-Trump cartoons?
Nobody likes it.
It's the thing, it's very, there's a guy called Ben Garrison who works out of Texas. He's the only guy, maybe one of the McCoy boys. But yeah, it's very thin on the ground. So Darryl's theory was that because these editors can't get the pro-Trump cartoons they want, they're going to stop running cartoons altogether, which is terrible. So it's almost extortion. If you don't give us the cartoons we want to run, we're not going to use any cartoons, and the whole thing will your space. There was even a paper in the Midwest that ran a blank space in protest, that they couldn't get the Trump cartoon that they wanted. So Cagle's piece was kind of arguing it's a bit of a tragedy because a portion of the market, these guys get used to not running any work. A portion of the market for prospective cartoonists, up-and-coming cartoonists, will die out altogether, just because nobody in their right mind would do a pro-Trump.
The guy satirises himself. I mean, you just have to run him straight.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to put your hands together and thank Glenn. It was not only enjoyable, it was also informative. And I hope that we see you here next week. And next week the topic will be...
It's not next week.
Easter.
Oh, Easter, so I
We all
apologize.
believe in God round here.
Thank you, thank you.
Catholics.
Thank you. Thank you. The topic then will be increasing inequality or basic income for all. The speakers are Dr. Ben Spies-Butcher and Frank Stillwell. So hopefully in 2 weeks' time, we'll see you here again. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.